My guest today is somebody who I came across online, and then I booked a call with her and we began chatting. And very quickly, I started to get a sense that this is a person who really walks their walk. And they have been, what I say, Joseph Campbell style, down in the abyss and have discovered some treasures and brought them back up to share with us. So I'm so excited today to introduce you to Claire Badgett. And Claire is an intuitive intelligence mentor. She comes all the way today from Wales in the UK. So I'm really grateful that she stayed up late to have this conversation with me. And so I'm your host, Kylie Savage Psychic, and this is Conversations with Kylie. And welcome to the show, Claire.
Oh, thank you so much, Kylie. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today because we've had the most amazing conversations already. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you. It's so great. And I really do appreciate with the time difference and everything. I still can't get my head around it. It's such a mind bend. So I really do appreciate you doing this with me. Now, Claire, what really sort of struck me about you is you have a very unique energy. And as we were having that chat, something just came through to me, and I thought it's not that often that you meet someone, and as you start to speak with them, you get a sense that this is someone who you may have some shared lived experience with, and someone who understands what it's like to have those dark nights of the soul and to have really experienced things and gone through them and come through the other side. And I thought it is a little bit like that Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey. I'm very drawn to people who have been on similar paths to me, because it
Mm.
humanizes what can be really challenging experiences. And we need to see and hear more from people who have been through similar things. So it gives other people hope. We share that experience, strength, and hope. So what I want for you to do today, if you can, is just in your own words, if you could describe for us, like how you work with people and what really drew you to do the work that you do.
Well, where should I start? What drew me to do the work? Basically, I've had people pretty much all my life tell me things that they've never told anybody else before. So that's, and I just kind of took that as a normal thing, but apparently it's not. Um, and they would tell me their whole life story.
Hmm.
Some took longer than others, but everybody pretty much told me at least one thing, and they went, "Oh my gosh, I've never told that to anybody else." And you could see whew, I've really opened up, and you could see or I could anyway, this energy, um, these memories, these feelings, these emotions all coming up from, like you're talking about, sort of the abyss, or the back where they put everything, and coming up and actually being witnessed by somebody. And the a lot of them are sort of taken aback, as they were like, well, you know I'm a very private person. I don't tell anybody this kind of stuff, really, especially not a perfect stranger. So that was that's always been something that I've found, and it's very powerful. It really, with clients, it puts them at ease, and again, a lot of people who have been sort of in absolute turmoil on the spot with whatever's been going on, have said to me, "Oh my gosh, I just need to be with you for a bit because your energy is so calming, is so calm." And I just found this really bizarre because, when I worked in events many, many years ago, and events are chaos, they're absolute chaos. And I would not be feeling calm inside at all. And yet these people would be just like, "Oh, thank you so much. I just need to sit with you. Can we chat? Can we, et cetera, et cetera." And I always found this kind of bizarre. Um, and so over the years, when I sort of just started to explore my own path consciously or more consciously, um, I decided to take the initial steps to actually sort of find a format, a structure that would help me understand this innate ability, I guess. You know, there's the things that just people were saying that I just took for granted, but I didn't know how to then help them properly. So I took, I started sort of taking courses and things like that and programs to be able to guide people, um, to in a much better way. And so there's just a lot of sort of natural things that drew me into, you know, this is a sort of a profession rather than, or not even a hobby, but just, something that naturally happens. And so one of the ways that I work with people is literally sort of conversations, or it feels like conversations, it feels like chats. But actually there's a lot that's going on in the background, and I can see it's their energy, my energy, and I'm working in the background with them. Sometimes I'm, telling them that I'm doing the energy work and everything, and a lot of the time I don't. Uh, Sometimes because it's distracting for them,
Yeah.
and sometimes because they actually don't need to know.
Mm.
And it depends, it depends on the information that I pick up and everything. But it's a lot of it is perspective shifting and uh, with the perspective shifting, the energy shifts as well. So I work predominantly with energy. I see
Mhm.
it in slightly different ways than most people do. So I work with what I call like an inner solidity. So when people aren't confident, they feel a bit insecure or shy or um, wobbly, right? I can
Yeah.
feel their energy is not solid. And
Mm.
when I work with them to find that inner solidity within them, in their energy fields, in their energy system, and that's mind, emotions, physical as well.
Yeah.
That they feel that inner solidity, and then confidence just naturally flows. They don't need to sort of take a confidence course and things like that. So um, I do work with them with the Akashic records. I will work psychically with them because I've taken quite a few courses over the years as well. I can pick and choose,
Yeah.
as I know, other quite a few, many other people can. So there's a wide um, range of tools that I have at my disposal, and so I try to make it as I can't say I try to make it as fun as possible because it does happen anyway. And some of the things are really serious.
Yeah.
Uh, but bringing in that lightness as much as possible is is actually really important. Is really important to me, and it's really important to them to have that space because some of them really are in that dark abyss, that deep abyss, and it's not much fun. So I always, try and lighten the mood without, and that's not dismissing what's going on. It's not bypassing anything. It's just bringing in a different kind of energy to shift things, to get that flow going and help them. So and sometimes I'll coach. Sometimes I will literally do not much in the sense of just listen, but again, all the energy work that is going on in the background. So it looks like I'm doing nothing. So I'm just sort of sitting there and just going, haha, okay, yeah, right, okay, cool. And at the same time, um, so much energy is coming up. There's a deep sort
Yeah.
of well, a deep reserve, reservoir inside, and it brings all of that up. And then it just, we can work with this in many, many different ways. And sometimes I'll just take them into deep meditation, bit of hypnosis in that, and all the energy work as well. It really depends what they need. So yeah, but with a lot of them, my clients, we just have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's great, and I love it, and they love it. So yeah,
I think that's the thing, like when you're, by the time you're open to working with someone and doing some, self-work and some deep healing, there can be a lot of intrepidation and a lot of anxiety and worry about, like, because you don't know. You've got a sense like something's drawn you to a particular person. But and you've got a sense that, oh, if I work with this person, things could actually shift and change. A lot of us are invested in not changing. And, we're not comfortable in the suffering, but it's what we know. And
yeah,
I know for myself, like that's, when you hit those crisis points and you have breakthroughs, it's not because you actively always choose to go there. It's because this is what happens. So I'm really excited about, the whole world kind of becoming more spiritually conscious and awake and aware, because it means people don't have to reach those crisis points to start to wake up more. That, or they might have a crisis, but it's not as dramatic. It doesn't need to be.
yeah,
Um, but the thing is, like, I think what's so reassuring is, when you were talking about people come and just talk to you and open up to you, and I've had similar experiences, and it's like, what is it about me? But it's like the energy just knows the other energy. It's like, it's really inexplicable. But when you just go with it and trust it, it kind of grows. And you
yeah,
think, no, well, this is
absolutely.
real. This is something, and it's something that's needed. But what I found is, when you can normalize, like when you're in,
Mm.
you're in the crisis, and like all the things are happening. And then I was around, very fortunate to be around people who had been ahead and on the path. I always say that, we're ahead on the path and shine the light back. And they normalized it for me. And, we laughed, and I've never laughed so much. I call it the MASH principle. When you're in the war zone, if you can't laugh there, where can you laugh? And they have,
Absolutely.
this sense of humor and levity because they've been there and they've been through it. Whatever the thing was, they've been through their own challenges and dark nights of the soul, and they're actively living through it, and they've come to the other side. And people just, they have a different energy around them when they've had a really deep healing, and they've what you're talking about too is truth. I think people respond to
Mm.
truth, like when they and I've sat with people before, and they're like, oh, I've never told anybody anything, and it's kind of scary for them, because it's like, but I just revealed, you know a real truth, like the truth of who I am. And to be able to hear that for people in itself is absolutely huge. We don't run,
Yeah,
we sit, we stay with them. And I think that gives people the reassurance to trust us and to go on. And whether they work with us or someone else, they'll keep
yeah,
going on that healing path. Now
absolutely.
I just want to divert a little bit. When you say, have you always seen energy, and how do you see it? Do you see it like clairvoyantly? Are you seeing auras? Like, I'm kind of fascinated by that, because I know how I see energy, but I'm like, I don't know, this is different.
Yeah, I likewise, I love hearing and understanding how other people sort of perceive energy and are aware of energy. Um, have I always seen it? I don't really remember. Um, the strongest memory that I have of when I was a kid with seeing energy was walking around central London with my mother and like desperately wanting to hold her hand and because it was absolute chaos. It was just people all over the place and everything. And we didn't live in central London, so for me it was even more than sort of somebody who grew up in a big city. Um, and I just remember thinking, I can't let go of her hand. People cannot come through our link,
Yeah.
because otherwise that bond is going to be broken. And I just remember seeing all over the place from people's midriffs, basically, what seemed to be sort of like links and spaghetti all over the place. And it
Mm.
just looked a right old mess. And I didn't understand it at all. So, I mean,
Mm.
for decades, I was like, hmm, that's interesting. But so I'll see things, I'll hear things, I'll see words, I'll know there's no I'll feel things as well, and they will feel um yeah, it's really just it's difficult to describe sometimes, isn't it?
Mm.
But it's I'll feel how the energy is. So if it's dissipated, it just feels like all over the place. If it's,
Yeah.
that inner solidity. Um, so if people are off center, I literally feel them sort of a bit, doing a bit of a leaning tower of Pisa. I can that their energy will be out somewhere, leaning out. And so and when I've explained that to people before, they've sort of looked at me and gone, hmm, okay, that's not normal. And so, that was part of the reason where I sort of shut everything down because, when you get told that's not normal or, what
Yeah.
on earth, you're weird and all of that
Mm.
kind of thing, you just try and shove everything to the back. Um, so yes, it gets shown to me in different ways, many different ways. And sometimes I'll see a sort of like a film strip, sometimes a picture, sometimes it's kind of that old style sepia kind of color.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's absolutely full bright color and
Hmm.
I'm in it. So there's no one way that
Yeah.
things are communicated to me, or the ways I pick things up, and I'll pick things up through paintings, newspapers, also anything basically. I was looking around the room trying to, the cushions. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that I understand things, road signs and words and things like that I'll see on the external, or it'll be internal. So
Mm.
yeah, there's no sort of one pattern in that sense. And I know for some other people it's very sort of, they'll just see things in a certain way. I've
Mm.
never I've never had that. So I never really understood it at all. And there seems to be no um, defined sort of structure or framework for how it happens and why and things like that, but it just does.
I know.
And that's
As you're
fine. I mean,
talking, yeah.
it's
Sorry, go
sorry.
on. Yeah.
No, it's just the way it is, but it's kind of now I'm okay, it's not that I'm okay with it. It's like, that's just how I perceive things. It's just how
Hmm.
I live with with myself and with energy and picking everything up from other people. And that for me is absolutely normal. But it took me a long, long time. It took me many years to actually accept that as my normal, and other people perceive things and energy in other ways.
Yeah.
And you know it's it's just how we are. It's just how we are, how we're made up.
Absolutely. No, as you're talking, I was like, first one I asked, can you tune in and tune out?
In what sense? What, to people or to
To
things or
energy.
to?
Yeah, to energy. So do you have like do you have boundaries around it? So you're like, now I'm tuning in, now I'm open to this, or now I'm not. Now I'm cooking dinner or driving a car or
Yeah, there are specifics. So if I'm working, I'll be, this is between me and the client. So,
yeah,
I really need to focus in on this. Otherwise, if I'll talk to the universe, you
yeah,
know, or my guides, or, however it is. Some people say it's talking to yourself. That's fine. So I'll do that and I'll get answers as well. So there's yeah, and there's I don't cut it off in that sense, but if I can feel that somebody's trying to get into my energy, I will shut that off. I don't, and I do
Yeah.
pick up things for my clients as well. So, and that took
Mm,
me a long time to understand as well.
mm,
Some of it really is not my energy.
yeah.
And I'll feel things, hear things, see things, etc. And
Mm,
it took me a long, long while to understand that that's not mine.
yeah.
And that's part of what I teach my clients as well, because so much of our stuff is not ours.
Mm.
But we
And they,
take it on as ours, and
yeah,
that's,
it's that.
oh, causes chaos. Well, it can
Absolutely.
do.
That's that, being empathetic. And that's what I thought as you were talking, I thought, oh, she must be a very, strong empath. But it's like as you were talking, it's sort of, I'm just really super curious, so forgive me, but I'm like, it's like you're in another world, like a parallel world, and that's your world. And you're in this one as well. And it's like almost like seeing you like completely in it. And that's what I thought. I wonder if you can tune in and tune out because I know like it can be really
Yeah.
difficult to be in a earthly material body in the material world and be in that other world. And I thought I know I've had lots of experiences there, but like seen it physically, in my day-to-day life. And I'm like, it would just blow my mind. It's just I couldn't see that all the time. I'd be there. So I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just intriguing. But to have that from childhood is amazing. And
Yeah,
thank you for sharing.
yeah, no, no problem at all. I mean,
There's got to be others, right? Like
yeah,
we get others, but hello, there's got to be others. And sometimes too,
yeah.
people they don't know, and they don't know that that's not normal. That's not what's happening for everyone, like you said. And I think I don't know. I always grew up thinking, no, I'm different. I didn't think other people were seeing what I was seeing, unless when I was really young. But I was
Hmm.
like, no, most, I've heard from so many people, they think this is just the way the world is because it's so that way for them. And it's
Yep.
a real shock to find out other people aren't having the same
Yes.
experience.
Oh,
It's like, oh,
absolutely. But I mean, you touched on something that's really super important and a big part of my work as well, because they said, you're living in two worlds. That's absolutely true. For years, I was, like, but two worlds apart, separate. They're not combined. And it's very confusing. So, I mean, I lived in a dissociated state for a very long time. I did not get on with like the earthly stuff, really.
mm,
I did and I didn't. But yeah, we used to go to the pub when I was sort of in my late teens, and friends, one in particular would sort of sit there and go, "Hello, where are you?" I'd be
yeah.
like, huh? What are you talking about? And I mean, I don't know where I was a lot of the time. I really don't know where I was. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I used to have huge amounts of fun and be with people, etc. But there was always a part of me that just was not there. And I could feel that, and certain other people could pick that up as well. Um, and bringing those two worlds in to actually sort of, be harmonious and synergistic and integrated,
Mm,
it's huge. So I mean, it feels very different, but it's very scary
yeah.
for people at first sometimes to go,
Yeah.
be in my body. You got to be kidding me. That is that's way too scary. It's too much. There's too many feels, it's too overwhelming, too much stuff. And I get it, I get it. It's true, but actually what is true is being in body, as in, being embodied, but being in body energetically is actually the safest place to be.
Mm,
And I, yeah, years ago, there's no way that I would have ever thought that, but it really is. It really is. And so I help my clients with that as well, because, when you've got two worlds going on, it's very difficult. Where do you live?
And
and I'm not,
people don't
mm,
realize, and I didn't realize until later on down the track, it takes an awful amount of energy to do that, to block
it's
things
huge.
off and to not be yourself and not be connected. And all of that energy that you're using to do that and basically live a lie, you're not being the truth of who you are. Um, all that energy is going there. Whereas that's all the energy you have to co-create your life, like to live. So yeah, I
Yeah.
really look at it. I think for me it was very much tied up with survival mode. But when I
Hmm.
came through all that, and you think, yeah, this is, yeah, sure, it's scary and it's not nice to be othered. But when you move through that and you think, hang on a minute, like it's kind of the other world, the one that doesn't understand energy and doesn't understand the first and foremost we're spiritual beings. That's the one that just doesn't make sense. And I think when we're children, it's like, what are you all doing? Like, I don't get this. Like, this is
Oh,
insane.
so much.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was like, what? I don't understand this world you're in, like the game you're playing, because it's like it's not like that. And that I found it
Yeah.
probably more difficult when I was younger. But I just want to go back just quickly
Mm.
when you were talking about energy and that inner solidity, like bringing that for people. When I do and have done spiritual healings, I was always drawn to finish off like with I thought I was grounding people and I would hold their feet. But it was literally like I was on the deck of a ship. I always sort of imagine a big old tall ship, and I would like sway with their energy, and I would feel it all coming back in. And it was like I don't think we realize how out there we are and how limitless we
Yeah.
are until you try and, bring some boundaries and like, it's not even that. It's like you trying to concentrate that person's energy back into their center. And it's like, where is that? Where's the soul in the body? Who knows? But
Mm.
and this was all completely led by spirit. And I'm holding people's feet and I'm literally feeling seasick. Yeah, and I would not let go of their
Yeah.
feet until I felt them all come in and then I'd be there. And I thought that was the work was just I say I'm just cleaning off the psychic debris, the rubbish, and just reconnecting you with yourself. And I thought that's interesting. Do you relate to that? Like that inner solidity? Is that almost the same? Like just bringing people back to themselves? And the
Yeah.
thing I'm seeing so much with people, especially as we live busier lives and all the rest, and we're taught so many things and influenced by so much. It's like people are so disconnected from their soul and their energy. They don't realize it's going here, it's going there. They're being pulled in all different directions. So no
Yeah.
wonder, like, we're having so many, like, I'm not saying this is the basis of it all. I'm not a mental health professional, but it's like, no wonder the mind is becoming so distorted and affected. And, we've got so many layers of complex trauma in the world now. Everyone's suffering trauma. It's like trauma disconnects you. It's all about disconnection for me. And
Yeah.
it's like there's so many people out in the world, they're so scattered. And I don't think you can be effective in the world unless you're wholly yourself, unless you know who you are and what you are. And you feel that, you are connected to yourself and to something. I
It's
thought,
very difficult. Yeah.
are you finding that like when people are coming to you that that's what's going on a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean, the scattered, the they're all over the place, and not necessarily, just energetically, but they might have, everything perfect or seemingly perfect in their world, but their energy's all over the place, and what then transpires is it's actually not quite so perfect, or the overwhelm. Um, a lot of it is the overthinking. So the clients that I work with, I mean, they're big. They've got amazing brains. They have amazing minds. They are, like some of them, sort of like real genius level, but they have these really sharp, um, big thinking, you know, big concepts, big, all sorts of things. Fascinating people, and I love talking with them as well. And at the same time, big vision, big creative, so they've sort of got it all in that sense. But the mind has overtaken, so they overthink, they get into overwhelm, and they push intuition and the rest of it to one side and their spiritual side, and trusting themselves and their inner wisdom and everything like that. I am not sure, to be honest, that there is more trauma in the world. I think it's talked about more, and it's talked about in a very different way to how it was before. So, for example, in the First World War, they came back and they had shell shock.
Yeah.
That now is understood to be, it could be CPTSD, it could be PTSD. There's all sorts of
Mm.
things like that, but it was just shell shock, and everybody just went, "Oh, it's shell shock. Okay, off you go." You know, um, there's and there are so many, the understanding with trauma is so many different layers of trauma and levels, um, and the compound kind of interest of things moving forward if issues are not resolved, or if they're not even sort of aware of
Yeah.
having issues. So yeah, I mean, it's a huge conversation this, but the scatteredness in people is, I'm not sure it's different, in the sense of, I'm not sure there's sort of like um uh more of it, let's put it that way. I think it is different, especially with mobile phones,
Mm.
devices, social media and things like that. That really does not help the scatteredness. It's it helps to keep that scatteredness going, perpetuates
Yes.
it,
Yes.
unless people are really careful. But whether I think there was a lot of it before, but it was in a different way. Each generation comes through with their own issues and challenges, and trying to get away from the problems of the last one. Yeah, I'm never going to be like my parents, and you
Yes.
suddenly realize down the line that you know you're exactly like your parents in certain aspects. um, so there are always going to be certain things that people work through in generational threads, right? And there are always going to be fears. I mean, I remember growing up with the Cold War, and I was petrified,
Mm.
absolutely petrified, listening to the news, hearing the news. Nuclear bombs is going to drop here and there, and I just remember lying in bed at night, just going, please, just drop it on the house when we're all together, so we can all be together, etc., etc. Just please, absolutely petrified, and I know, that carries its own um, consequences. Let's put it that way. And I know what's happened over COVID with the kids is, you know, is going to be very long lasting. It's, there's no easy fix on that one.
Mm.
Um, and what I grew up with was slightly different. However, the fears and the things, they're always going to be there in some form for, as we go through. The more information that is available, sure, there's going to be, there are going to be different issues, different problems to work with, and the energy on that. I mean, it's yeah, it blows energies right open, but not open in a sort of helpful, beneficial way. It, like you're saying, scatter, but it's just, kind of, you know, splatters them all over the place. Um, and it can be difficult to even realize that when you think that you're actually going through life in a, normal
Yeah.
way. You've got a good job and you've got this and all that kind of stuff, and it's great, but there are a lot of underlying bits and pieces going on always. So yeah, I I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could say that, the amount of people that I see with sort of scattered energy is any different. The quality of it is different, and the way that it is being scattered in that sense
Yeah,
is different. Um, but with with energy, with sort of universal energy, the energy is very different now than it was, even 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And I'm
yeah,
sure, you'll
mm,
you'll be like, yeah, oh my gosh,
yeah.
it is so different.
Changed a lot.
It's Yeah, it's really changed a lot. It's not as heavy. And that also brings its own challenges when people are waking up because it's easier.
Mm,
People
mm,
see energy far more easily. There are far more sort of, I don't know, psychic coaches out there and people who work with energy as well, energy coaches, energetics. It's a massive thing now. Um, and it's a lot easier to tap into, which is great.
yeah,
So there are a lot of people who are becoming more conscious, more awake, more aware. They're perceiving things a lot more. And there are far more of us out there who are able to guide those who are, sort of experiencing all sorts of things. It's like when I was a kid, there's nobody, you know.
yeah.
That's why we
Mm,
were told, like, well, you're making it up. You're reading, what you know,
mm,
you're reading way too much into that. I mean, gosh, what did you just, oh my God, and just pushing everything to totally dismissing it.
yeah,
Now it's far easier to actually come across somebody, like we're talking, come across these things and somebody goes, oh my gosh, really? You see, that's how you see things? Whoa, that's, oh my God, that's how I see. And it just makes, it'll make such a difference to people. It really will. Navigating all this stuff, let's put it that way, all the energy shifts, all the energy changes, and all the stuff that comes up because it it just can't not. It just has to. Just by the very nature of, I don't even know what, like, how I'd call that, but it just happens. It brings all sorts of other, bits and pieces up that the people have got to deal with.
yeah,
Um, and the last few years have been pretty brutal on that score. But as far as I can tell from everything that I've kind of picked up about this year, it really, and there was sort of, my kind of my guy's universe, the things, information that I was picking up last year, and still very much this year is about this year being the year of people coming into their own, sort
yeah,
of going through coming of age, right?
yeah,
And it sounds great because it's like, oh, brilliant. It's like we were talking about sort of, you get to a certain stage and you get comfortable there, and then it's like, oh, great. Now you go to the next one.
yeah.
And each kind of stage has its own different flavors, let's put it that way. You know, benefits and challenges and things like that. And it depends how you see as challenges. If you see them as
Mm,
difficult, then they will be difficult. If you see them as like, okay, right, let's just see how we're going to work through this one, then things can be a lot easier. But coming into your own and coming of age, sort of those initiations are not necessarily easy. So, because at first I was like, oh, this is really exciting. This is going to be an amazing year. And I was like, oh yeah, hang on. Mm, right.
because
Okay.
yeah, we have the like, like in one sense, I'm like, oh, finally, people are finally starting to wake up and to this truth that like I understand and I've always seen and live with, and am coming to understand more. And it's like, oh, finally, they're going to be on this page. But the thing is, we've all still got that law of polarity, so we still got so much resistance to it. So I saw like as more and more people become awake and aware, and we need all these teachers, these facilitators and educators there for them, but they're like a bunch of toddlers. And I mean, I love toddlers. I used to work with them, but they're like, they have, two modes and everything's quite extreme for them. And they're bumping around all over the place. So I thought we'll be hurting toddlers for quite some time, I think, and not every toddler's the same.
Yeah.
Some of
Oh,
them are,
crikey. I mean,
yeah, up and walking and they're into, they're ready to play. And others are, still bumping down on their bottoms and crawling around and then getting up again. So that's
yeah,
what
some are
I feel
super
like we're like
advanced as well.
herding toddlers. I was going to say too that I think that
Yeah.
other um space for people like yourself to work with is and I don't want to go down this tangent too far because I know we've got to move on. But that a
Good.
lot of people are saying autistic kids, and not just autistic kids, but just the kids that are coming through now, they already seem to be very much in another world. And I thought we need people to walk that journey with them as well. I thought that's so interesting. And that's becoming more normalized. I think their
Yeah.
experiences are shifting our ideas of what's normal and what's can be experienced, all the potentials. I thought, yeah, I remember one lady, a psychic, saying she was working with an autistic child and she kind of tuned into him, and she said it was like when you walked into the electrical store and they used to have those banks of TVs, and it was like every TV was on,
Mm.
but it was on a different channel. And I thought, yeah, that's amazing. All right, I did just want to
Yeah.
ask you, so, and I think we've covered this a little bit, but what's your experience been of blending, all this spiritual stuff and the energetics with the material? Like for you on your journey creating your business, what has that been like?
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's
oh, it's
been,
fun
it's
to hear
been,
that.
it's been, there's been highs and there's been lows. I mean, there've been, some major challenges, um, and absolutely major wins. A lot of flow. It's, it's been, it's been quite tough at times and it's been super easy. I mean, to be honest, it's been sort of all over the place in that sense, like
Yeah.
full flexibility within the experience of everything that could be. And that's great because it gives me, or it's given me that, those understandings, those experiences, that experiential knowledge, the wisdom, you know, deep inside, and on all levels, the resilience, um, the uh, what's it called? When you build up sort of the ability to do more and more and more, and cope with more and more and more, and be able to
Yeah.
take on, more, um, workloads, clients, energy, the whole thing. There is definitely, it's it's an incredible journey. I absolutely, I found it really tough at first for all sorts of different reasons. Um, and and I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I stuck with it. It
Hmm.
was, there were moments when I was just like, that's, yeah, I can't. I could just like I'm done. And I just thought I can't do that either. Right. Okay. So what are you going to do? Go through. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Hmm.
And the the gifts from all of that, you know, the they're priceless in that sense. They're just absolutely perfect. But yeah, it's been quite intense at times. Also because I mean I love researching. So I will, if there's something that I will, that I need. So, I've done my own website, so I taught myself how to do that. I'll research the software to use and I'll look at how to connect it all together and find, so I love doing that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Like the yeah, the sort of the putting together things, sort of the mechanics, the engineering behind that, in that sense, if that makes sense. Not quite
Yeah.
engineering mechanics, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
As well as doing all the clients faced work, and also my own sort of inner work. So, again, this is sort of part of the journey of working with being able to work with the the brain, my brain, my mind, and the energy, and just getting those, together. Um, Not everybody loves doing it, and it's, things like all the admin, the numbers, that kind of thing.
Mm,
I still find them challenging to do. I'll do them. It is getting easier, and I will persevere just because it's important to me to be able to understand all of these things myself.
yeah.
So if there's something else I don't, yeah, it's so to be honest, I mean, I will put myself in challenging positions so that I can actually understand it anyway, which, yeah, is quite an interesting way of doing things. It's not the easiest, and I wouldn't
No, I
recommend
just
it to everybody.
I do find that, yeah, like um I'm super independent, so I always want to, and I want to know, like I want to know how things work. So I'm like, I want to have a go at them, but yeah, there's definitely parts I don't enjoy about running my own business. But I feel like if I can at least understand it, I've made an effort, but I'm learning more and more to collaborate with others and to cooperate and outsource, where I can, and to let people assist me. I was
Yeah.
talking with someone just recently about spiritual business. We're in a business group, and I said, like you have people who are in spiritual business, like we approach things in often a very different way because we have spirit as our, co-creative, our collaborator already. So it's like that. I find that the back and forth, and it's like I find my business is spirit led.
Mm.
I've got my agenda and my plans and ambitions and everything else, but I'm like, but they're my co-creative partner. So we have a lot of staff meetings, and I have a lot of like,
Mm.
well, that didn't work. It must be your fault. It's not on me. I did my part, okay? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's great. So, like, we probably covered a little bit of that, but yeah, reflecting on your time and your experiences in spiritual business. So, what suggestions or encouragement would you have for other women who want to go down a similar path? And that like they're there and they're thinking about, is this for me?
Yeah. Trust. Trust yourself. Trust what trust your intuition. If you work with guides, trust your guides. They will absolutely, it may not, they'll put you in the situations, they'll put you with the right people. It may not be like you want it to be, or how you want it to
Mm,
be, or how you think it should be. Um, and that's fine. Get over it. It's like work with it. The trust is yeah, it's interesting because business is definitely, it has to be a blend between, you know, some hardcore, like numbers and things like that. Otherwise, it's not a business.
yeah.
And, intuition, the spiritual side of things, all of that. There has to be a balance. There has to be an understanding that both need to coexist at the same time.
Mm,
And if the, call it the sort of the admin side of things, the business, I call the proper business side of things, is not that strong, either get help straight off or dive in, you know, but it needs to be done. There has to be structure in there. There absolutely
mm,
has to be structure in there. And I for decades, for pretty much all my life, hated structure, because that for me felt, as I understood it, as I looked at it, as I perceived it, it looked to be like being caged up,
Yeah.
being trapped. But it's not. It's actually not. It's fundamental for things to be able to flow.
Yeah.
And without that, it's not it's not solid, right? The spiritual side of things is so important. Is absolutely so important, but also the those foundations, those business foundations. Without them, it's a very different kettle of fish. Now,
Mm.
the other thing is it depends on the context, right? So if there are obviously like communities and things, like places where hardcore business things just they don't work, and that's fine, but then they work on a totally different level, they work in a totally different way, uh, and at the same time they still have structure in there. So structure in some form is absolutely necessary,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time to sort of accept that, and
Mm.
I now seek structure and create structure, because I can create
Mm.
structure how I want it. But if I'm running away from it, then it makes life so much more difficult, because then
Yeah.
it's I didn't look at it, cause all sorts of chaos. Um, so yeah, get some help, especially at first, just to get that understanding. There's so much that I just did not understand.
Yeah.
Um, and it just felt to me that my brain was absolutely jumbled.
Mm.
Um, so find somebody who can actually translate that. There are so many people who are incredibly talented nowadays with, being able to bridge between spirituality and business and
Yeah.
explain what
Yeah.
needs to happen, what can
Mm.
happen, what the possibilities are, how you can go about things, because there's no one set way.
Mm.
So research, contact people, talk to people. Like we were talking earlier, sort of, those collaborations, those connections. And, when you put the energy out and you put the intention out and you put the call out, the dots will be connected to, it may not be the first person you come across, it may be the third or the fourth, or it may be the first. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if there is no seeking in that sense of trying to understand, or the willingness to understand, then things get very shut off. Um,
Well, I
so I
think
think that would, sorry,
you've
yeah, I think that would be the
without
fundamental thing for me.
no, you've said all that beautifully, like the foundations, and but without the right support, even your family, your friends, your pets, your spirit, there's so many sources of support, but without kind of that expertise, the expert eyes on your business and that support, it makes it easier to give up, and it makes your
Yeah.
workday a lot harder. And I think as solo, biz people, we do so much on our own. And, we try and do all the things, the marketing, the business, all that stuff. And I mean, for me, I was absolutely clueless. But I think you're right. We need that mindset of blending the spiritual and the material, like the spiritual and the business, logistical, logical stuff as well. And the sooner you get your head around that, the better that and stronger that foundation will be. Which is part of this, like one of the reasons why I started having these conversations was that, uh,
Mm.
like, I want to reach out and show people there's, like you said, there's so many different ways that you can create your business. And there are people out there today who don't balk when you say, oh, I'm a psychic or I'm a healer, and I need some help with my booking system or my admin. And that, like for me in my mind, the problems were so big. But when I actually got someone in and they walked me through it. I was like, what was I worried about? even things like doing
Yeah.
Zoom readings, stuff like that. Because I think that we will just stop ourselves before we even get out of the gate. And for me, like this work has been why I still keep coming back to it, is this work has
Mm.
been where I'm most effective. I've seen, I'm the most useful and I've seen the most change for people. I mean, of course, we're spiritual people. We can help people washing their hair, making their shoes, making their coffee, like in all the ways. Yet for me, like when I work with people and doing this work, this is where I feel the most me and I'm just the most
Yeah.
effective. And I think that's what helps get you through those really, gnarly kind of moments.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
all
Yeah,
right,
and
Claire.
having all those things in the background set up in the business allows
Yes.
you to just be
Mm.
free to do that. And
Yeah,
you
to
don't have
go
to
do your
think about
thing.
it.
Mm.
There's no worry, there's no kind of like, oh my gosh, is that going to work? Is it not? It's sorted.
Oh, I'm
And
so
it's such
excited.
a
Yeah, for people coming in now, because especially if they're going to online business, you've got Zoom, you've got your online booking system, you've got accounting systems, and you've got people who know how to use these tools. So if you're
yeah.
coming in now, like I did it all back to front. I've, finally towards the end
Oh,
of my business journey, I'm like, I've got the pieces happening. But other than that, you struggle. And I think people, if they think they're going to come in and just start with like one piece of social media or whatever, it's not the way. It's all changed. Like I think you've got to start thinking about those foundation pieces. And I always see that and encourage people, like, and even myself, like you've got to think about where you want to go, and you've got to start taking the actions along that path, because that's where the energy meets you.
mm,
And it's like that's where, then things will build up. Like you've got to have that structure in place, and it will grow, and then it will change, so we don't have to get all overwhelmed and anxious about everything and have heart attacks. It's like it's okay. You just,
yeah,
little bit by little
absolutely.
bit, you'll get there. Okay, so if people want to work with you, Claire, and they, want to find out more about you and the ways that they can work with you, probably the best. What's the best place, sorry, for them to come and find you?
They can find me on social media, so Facebook, Instagram. I have set up a TikTok. I'm not very active on there at all at the moment yet. It will happen. And my website, sort of the four strongest ones. Anywhere, basically, Claire Badgett is, that's my Facebook. It's Instagram as well. So my website is www.clairebadgett.com, and the links are below because, yeah, I mean, I can spell it out. Just click on the links. It's much easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they search for Claire Badgett, they'll find Facebook, Instagram, website, etc. So it'll come
And
up.
terrific. Are you working mostly online, or do people
Yep.
see you in person as well? No, mostly online.
Very, very
Mm.
rarely in person,
Yeah.
partly because I'm like way out on a limb, basically, in one of the most beautiful places in the earth.
Yes.
And it's not, I used to live in London. I've lived in some big cities. This is not a big place at all. So it's very rare to work in person. And that's not, it's just the choice of where I want to live. I
Yeah.
love it here because I've got the sea right down on my doorstep.
Yeah.
So, that's important to me. So yeah, the majority of it is online. I mean, if anybody ever wants to come over, absolutely, come, but
Mm.
it's not because I do. It's like, well,
Yeah.
to work with me in person is a, big thing. It's just
No, no,
because of where I live.
I've seen some of the photos that you've posted it, and it does look absolutely idyllic. Absolutely lovely. And you're coming into the warmer
Mm.
weather now. You can have our summer, okay? You can have it. If you want some warm weather, some heat,
Yes,
definitely
please.
have our Sydney weather. You're not a fun summer. Thank you so much, Claire. This has been absolutely great. So, this has been Conversations with Kylie with my guest, Claire Badgett. And I'm sure you'll want to at least go and book a clarity call with Claire and have a chat and find out more about how you could possibly work together. And if you're just even curious or intrigued about anything that we've spoken about, you can both probably contact us by email as well. And we'd love a like and a comment and some feedback. Definitely share this video with your communities and you, look at things like this. If you're interested in spiritual business, or if you're interested in healing, if you're interested in connecting with people who can understand where you're at and assist and support you to keep moving through that and moving forward, then definitely get in touch. That this is what we're here for. This is why we're in business, so that you can find us, and we can, work out if we're the right fit, and just, widen your community and your resources and your knowledge about all these things. So thank you again, Claire. This has been fantastic. I've loved chatting with you, and all the best with everything from now on as well. I know you've got some
Thank
exciting
you.
things coming up, and I'm going to let you go and try and get a not so late night.
No, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much, Kylie. I absolutely love talking with you every time. It's just, we always have like big conversations
Yes,
and we could go on for hours. So, but yes,
absolutely.
if anybody wants to get in touch, with either of us or both of us, in the comments and everything, there's so much that, we can help with. Doesn't have to be, a huge thing, just a kind of um acknowledgement, like you're saying, of where you're at, where people are at, it's like,
Mm,
oh my gosh, I've had that experience. How about this? We can always give, little bits and pieces here and there that
yeah.
that really help. So yeah, do get in touch.
No, that's great.
Thank
If
you.
people can identify with us and feel a little bit less alone, even from listening to this, then
Yes.
that's everything. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you, Claire.
Cool. Thank you so much. All right. Bye.